Good morning and welcome to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from YouTube, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content or help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today, in commemoration of BATT's 25th anniversary, we're getting to know a little bit about the Bankers Association of Trinidad Tobago with Richard Downie. He is the president of the Bankers Association of Trinidad Tobago. He's also a former national hockey player. We have that in common in terms of playing hockey, not the national part. And he is the managing director of Trinidad Tobago and regional operating officer, personnel and commercial banking of RBC Royal Bank Trinidad Tobago Limited. Let's bring in him because today is going to be a lot of information shared when it comes to the Bankers Association of Trinidad Tobago. So for those who may not know Richard, we've been doing this series for a while now, and we do have a lot of new viewers coming in. So for the purpose of someone who are watching this live now, or maybe, on the replay, to be asking, what is the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago? So can you clarify for us?
Hi, Pauline. Thanks for having me on the program again. Glad to be here. So the Bankers Association, it's really a national association made up of both local and foreign banks that operate within Trinidad and Tobago, and we are all supervised by the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. It was established in 1997 and made up at that point of 8 commercial banks. And the whole idea behind it was for the further development and strengthening of the banking sector in Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, purpose of this update is that we are actually celebrating the 25th anniversary this year of the association. And, it is a good time to just look back at what we've been able to accomplish, look forward to what we hope to continue to accomplish, and just share knowledge about what the association is about. So I'll stop there in terms of, as we get into it, probably give some more feedback.
Great. Thank you for that insight, because a lot of the times we as consumers, we don't necessarily care about associations. We don't care about people coming together to actually have a discussion about something that may affect the wider public. So it's extremely important for us to learn more about this, but let's step back for a little bit and have a Golden Girls moment and be like, picture this. When did this start? So let's talk about how the Bankers Association came about in Trinidad and Tobago.
Certainly. So really, it started in 1997. There were 6 commercial banks at the time. Bank of Commerce, we'll see how our viewers remember Bank of Commerce, what was called Nova Scotia at the time, now Scotia Bank, First Citizens, Republic Bank, and Royal Bank. Those were the key banks at the time that came together to try to form this Bankers Association. It was actually trying to be formed originally in 1996, the year before, through many discussions. The formation started to take place, but really only got off the ground and became a proper association of May 1st, 1997. The whole idea was members adopted a consultative approach with respect to any issues pertaining to the banking sector, and really looked for ways to see how they can add value, give back to the community, and help build a stronger financial sector.
So these are great initiatives. And when we think about where it began and where we are now, a lot has changed, because as consumers, we have different expectations. As within the banking sector, you would have changed and evolved. Think about back in the day when an ATM wasn't a thing. So when it comes to this shift and change, why is Bankers Association important, even more important now, especially when we're coming out of the pandemic and having to evolve with technology?
Yeah, good point. If you look back, at the day when the Bankers Association was, a lot of banking or transactional activity was heavily paper-based, person to person, having to conduct the transactions and so on. At that point, ATMs were probably pretty prevalent. At that point, point of sale was now really starting to make mainstream for us within Trinidad and Tobago. Also, the whole aspect of cellular phones really we only started to get much stronger into the early 2000s. So at the formation of the Bankers Association, it was at a time when we started to see transitions. So we really saw the whole idea of the need for the BATT. We call it BATT for short, hence the cliche there of straight off the bat, the cricketing term, but of the program. But really, we saw the need to improve our good relations between the banks and the public in general. We felt there was a need to have this body that would help represent an industry and be able to share that information and be objective in doing so. It also helped to foster a better understanding of the banking sector. So a lot of educational programs, of course, that would help drive that. A lot of collaborating with various industries, various associations to share information and to be collaborative in supporting their needs as well. We wanted to have set standards for the industry, things that we should all hold each other within the banking sector accountable for. This is not about setting price or setting rates or anything. It's more about proper governance, things that we should all be able to put on the table and say, what's the view on certain matters, and that we can, as an association, represent and lobby both the government and various associations and other national bodies, things that we think are important for the national benefit of the country and things along those lines. Education and financial literacy will continue to be a key objective, of course, because we are about that aspect of growing that financial literacy within the country as well.
And I think that's, such an important fact because I have learned a lot from this live show in terms of financial literacy and being able to understand money a little bit more. So for the context of this discussion and just to personalize it, can you talk about, your understanding of financial literacy and what it means for us as consumers to search out for what it means to manage money?
Yeah, financial literacy can start as simple as managing, your basic financial needs. It could be, how can I save money? Normally, tends to be a lot around that aspect. How do I go about starting a savings plan? How would I be able to afford things as I get my first job? How do I save towards something more much bigger, such as a car or a home? How do I plan and prepare to go and study either abroad or locally? So it really, financial education is just helping persons understand what are some of the basics within there, making sure they understand where they can reach out to find that information, and also with us partnering with Central Bank, with the Financial Ombudsman as well, some of the key stakeholders, of course, Ministry of Finance, the government in general. It's that whole aspect of making sure your rights are protected and the public and the average consumer has the right to raise concerns at any point if they think they're not being properly treated, and they have avenues within which that they can do so.
And for someone who may be watching this going, well, of course you guys are going to talk about financial literacy because it's in the best interest for you to keep my money there. And like, well, I want to keep my money under a mattress. What say you to that person for an understanding when it comes to the education and money?
Yeah, certainly. I think financial literacy has the benefit. Of course, it helps from a banking sector, but it just helps persons understand if you're going to interact with a bank, a commercial bank, it could be a trust company, it could be a merchant bank, that you understand what are some of the products and services they offer, first off, You may not be interested, and that's fine. But remember, you also have credit unions in the space, and quite many of those as well, and starting to come under more the purview of the central bank as well. So it's really helping to say that the more you understand the options of where you could put the money, hard-earned money you own, whether it's under the mattress, as you mentioned, whether you want to lock it away in a drawer, whether you want to keep it in an envelope and in your bag or your handbag or wherever it might be, that the options of depositing it, putting it somewhere else safe, or putting it somewhere that could invest for you and certainly have some sort of return, or can you invest the money as well, but at the same time, based on that investment, I then qualify for borrowing money against it so that my money is earning on one side and I'm getting access to other funds that I can use for my own personal needs or the needs of my company, especially in the small, medium enterprise sector, what we call the SME sector, where we help to get that sector up and running and really become more vibrant within the economy.
So we covered, what is the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago and how did it start? But let's look at some of the objectives, because some people will be like, well, you guys come together to have these discussions, but what is the objective for Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago as the celebration of quarter of a century? We're going about celebrating that time frame.
Yeah, probably highlight maybe just the top 2 or 3 ones that I would say come top of mind. Certainly, it's to assist and to promote the growth and development of the banking and the financial services in keeping with international developments in the industry. We are part of a wider ecosystem of financial institutions. Funds move internationally, abroad, and so on. So it's certainly to promote that whole growth aspect and have that oversight, right? We will always, as an objective, want to make sure persons continue to understand what the banking sector is about, what they can do, what they cannot do, and why, or at least help lobby to explain why some things are not allowed. Currently, as you know, the whole compliance aspect of banking is critical, and we continue to get educating our customers, the public in general, about things as anti-money laundering, KYC, know your client. They need to know your client a lot more. Back in the day, you could have just come into a branch, maybe just have a driver's license, and we can, with that alone, form of ID, open an account comfortably for you, and you got up maybe a passbook and so on. So it's all about helping that clients understand the journey we are on, relative to compliance, the need for compliance, the need to validate the client in terms of the person is who they say they are. Monitoring of funds, it's a big deal now. So we monitor funds that leaves each organization as they move within the local market, as well as it makes its way into the international market, or funds from the international market coming into the local market, what we like to refer a lot to as source of funds. Where did the funds come from and where are the funds going to? So a lot of more compliance and control has been brought about in the banking sector over the last arguably 15 years, maybe more, and it continues to be pretty stringent in that about protecting where funds are coming from and making sure these are all legal funds. I want to just also add, it's really about building a good relationship with the public. It helps us lobby and explain from a sector perspective what are we about. So that whole advocacy aspect of it is a key objective of the association for us.
I think that discussion around source of funds and compliance is something we need to elaborate more, because there's a running joke. They want everything, including my blood type, to open a bank account, but I don't think we truly understand why that needs to be done and how that has changed over the years. So maybe we can discuss that, but we'll do that right after the break.
Certainly.
Good morning and welcome back to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from LinkedIn, don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and we're commemorating 25 years of the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And today we're getting to know BATT with Richard Downie. He's the president of the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago and the managing director of Trinidad and Tobago and regional operation officer, personal and commercial banking at the RBC Royal Bank Trinidad and Tobago Limited. He's also very active and a fitness person, so let's bring him in because that mental fitness is required to have this discussion when it comes to managing your money. Hi, Richard. How are you?
Hi, Pauline. I'm doing fine.
Great. So we're going to get back into it because just before the break, we had a discussion around compliance. You mentioned it, and I immediately went ping because I know a lot of us out there are going, oh my gosh, I have to fill out all this information just to put my money into your
Right.
account for you to charge me, right? So in the context of what you
Yes.
discussed earlier over the last 15 years, there's a change that's happened from just going, one point of ID to this to having this request of information when it comes to source of funds. So I think a lot of people
Yeah.
want to know why.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we found is, and I'm not the compliance expert, we're compliance officers for that. That's just an internal banking joke because when you're not in compliance, you have to be careful what you say in terms of the space. But yeah, from a compliance lens, critical is that whole aspect of anti-money laundering. Anti-money laundering and what we also call terrorist financing. So governments across the world felt that the best way to monitor that is through the financial industry globally. So this is not a Trinidad issue. This is a global international issue where it's in the best interest that for all governments, and we talk about control and oversight, regulations, is that they felt best landed with the financial industry in movement of funds, that we should have these other controls, checks and balances, so to speak. How do we do that? I like to akin it to when you travel and you go to a country, what do you need to get into that country? You can't use a driver's license, can you? Some places you may get away with it, but you need a passport, an international document that says we validated that this national passport says who the person is, the picture they have, and their signature. Of course, sometimes they may require a visa, which is almost some sort of control as well, because they want to control who's coming into their country, right? Can you afford to come into their country and not be a burden to the country? So you have that level of control for international travel. Take that now and represent it in a financial industry. We are now obligated, my words, to kind of say that we have to own up to the regulators to say we have proper controls and balances in place to monitor our employees, employees as well, but more so our clients, that we know who they are and that we can identify where they live, we can identify their movements generally, we can identify their financial patterns, and that we, more importantly, can be able to identify any forms of money laundering, fraud, or any forms of terrorist financing. So through that process, a lot of information has to be gathered, monitored, with transactions in the background to ensure that if we pick up any signs of any issue, we can report it. So sometimes you do a transaction and they may ask you, okay, that's not normal for you. Can you declare your source of funds? And you're like, but this is not your business. This is my money. It is your money, but you're placing it into a financial institution. And if that financial institution is not comfortable where those funds come from,
It seems that the internet did not want us to extend this discussion. So what we're going to do is go on a quick break and see if we can catch Richard because this compliance conversation is so important, especially when it comes to managing your money and understanding what it takes to open your bank account. So we'll be right back. And welcome back. We are here with Richard Downie, the president of the Bank Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Let's bring him back in. I believe he was interrupted mid-thought. Do you remember, Richard? You were having this discussion with the compliance conversation? Yes.
Yeah, hi, Pauline. Sorry again. My technology seems to continue to give me issues. Yeah, I was talking about the whole aspect of compliance, just confirming. And I would have, did you pick up the analogy about entering a country and the need for passports?
Yes, and I think that was extremely clear in terms of requirements that we all have when it comes to, entering certain countries as well as opening a bank
Right.
account. So I did pick that up.
Okay, and what I was building on that, more related now within the banking sector, is we also have the aspects around that of the anti-money laundering and the anti-terrorist financing to ensure through the governments across the world that they've needed a way to monitor the movement of funds. And what better place to land it than with financial institutions globally. So requirements have been landed with the financial institutions, and regulations continue to change annually that we must be able to comply with, hence the word compliance, a key segment that we have to look to and monitor the movement of funds. So by naturally looking at the movement of funds would be, if you were to receive funds that you normally don't receive funds for, you may get the question from someone to say, could you declare where the funds have come from? We have the obligation to record it. And if there's any concerns, we have, we have certain, what would be the right word there? Certain actions to take. And certainly there are local governing bodies that we have to report into as well in those lines. So it's a sort of an oversight body that we have to monitor. So some of these things therefore mean, from a ability to open an account, we do normally recommend on average 2 forms of ID, just to make sure from 2 various sources that the client can be validated. Sometimes they ask, as you know, for a utility bill. It kind of confirms the address by which you might live. If you don't have those, you can get maybe something to say that you're renting and you are the person renting the property. So just a sort of sense to know where this is happening, and that we could properly identify who you are. So that's what's really have started to evolve over the years, a very structured process of compliance, and to keep help support the governments and their drive towards anti-money laundering and anti-terrorist financing. That's just some of the key needs about it. There are certainly other things to protect the financial sector overall as well.
Thank you for that, Richard. I think that type of information makes us more informed as consumers and have a better understanding with the why. Now, when it comes to, compliance and having this discussion from an international perspective, obviously it is a collaborative effort. And when it comes to financial institutions, can you advise us who are the members of the Banks Association of Trinidad and Tobago?
Yep. Currently, we have 8 member banks. We have Royal Bank, we have Republic Bank, First Citizens, Scotia Bank, GMMB, Citibank, Answer, and I'm short one. Let me just go through who I missed. I think would that have been all of them. So there are 8 member banks in all, and we continue to meet regularly in terms of what our agenda would be to drive things as we go forward. So those are the 8 member banks.
Right. So
Oh,
when it
first
comes,
FCIB was the 8th one. Sorry,
no
FCIB,
worries.
First
And
Caribbean
for those
International Bank.
who may have missed it, you could actually head over to the bat.org.tt website and check that out. We will put that in the comment section below. But yes, you can definitely see all that information on the website, as well as you could sign up for the newsletter where we send regular updates on what's happening with the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. So you mentioned these 8 banks, but then you also earlier had a discussion about central bank. Why is it important to have that relationship as an association with the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes, so central bank, the overall governing body in a country to monitor and provide financial monetary policy for a government and a country. And through the arm of central bank, which is the regulator, one of the key regulators for us in Trinidad and Tobago, we over the oversight of central bank, we want to maintain relationship with them in terms of good governance, good practice. So it's
Alrighty, so we are, I believe, in the rainy season, so we have no control over what the internet wants to interrupt us in this discussion. So we're hoping that we have Richard back very soon. But in the meantime, we will put the links to the stuff that we discussed today. We also have had an ombudsman on this live show before on the YouTube channel, so check that out. I think we learned so much, especially when it comes to the integration of technology, as well as, watching this from Trinidad and Tobago, you know how the driver's license situation is. So technology is going to be integrated into that. So I think that is something that you would be interested in terms of this discussion. So let's bring Richard back in because technology is something we don't have control over, but we're going to pivot and see how we're going to try this again. So Richard, you're back. Can you
Yes,
hear
sorry,
me?
it keeps looping on me. I'm not sure what's up. Yep, I'm hearing you fine.
Okay, great. So you were having a discussion around the central bank and how it represents the country and the banking for the citizens of the country. So when it comes to the relationship between BATT and central bank, you were giving us some information there. So you want to continue?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Pauline. Hopefully, we can get this sorted out with the connection. Yeah, so central bank, key governing body, financial monetary policy aspects of it is have that oversight by the central bank. As a regulator and one of the key regulators for the commercial banks, also they will have oversight for the insurance companies as well. So it's really the financial sector that's of one part being commercial banks. So as an association, by partnering with central bank, we can lobby on things that we feel need to be looked at. Sometimes it's legislative based that they can take the lead role as central bank on our behalf. So we have a lobbying body to use the Bankers Association to do that. It also works for international organizations that may have to come in and want to meet with us. They would go through that with central bank. Central bank will have other international bodies that they would interact with as well to monitor the progress of the financial state of the financial sector in Trinidad and Tobago. So the regulatory arm just gives proper governance and oversight to ensure that people's money, companies and organizations' money are not at risk. They're properly measured, monitored, utilized, and that whole governing body is in place. And we therefore need to have a really strong relationship with them. The stronger the relationship means the overall better running of in my view at least, in terms of how things work in an economy, that we can be supportive of each other, understand directions we want to take, and moving the country forward.
And I definitely have to say kudos to the Banks Association of Trinidad and Tobago for embracing technology and this live show because we are in a position where a lot of us are working remotely and don't have the ability to go to events. So This allows people the opportunity to learn more from the comfort of their home or in their office. And thank you to Peter for letting us know. Congrats on this laudable initiative. And I definitely 100% agree with that. And, from a 25 years perspective, because, a lot of people still not 25 yet, they're probably on TikTok. Um, when it comes to achievement,
Like me.
are you on TikTok, Richard?
I follow some TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. My daughter-in-law tries to get me on, but I'm not.
Maybe that's an initiative we look at, in the next 5 years, when we reach 30 years, we're like, yes, Bat is on TikTok.
Okay,
I don't know.
next one come.
Something to discuss. Something to discuss. So when it comes to achievements over the last 25 years, I want you really to think about what that looks like. I know there are initiatives that you can, for viewers who are watching this, can check online on the website. But when it comes to being able to say, okay, these are certain things that have worked over the years, we're going to go on a break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss what that looks like for the Bankers Association of Trinidad Tobago. We'll be right back. Hi there. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on the time you're watching this. Welcome to the live series, Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from Facebook, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and we're commemorating the Bankers Association of Trinidad Tobago 25th anniversary. We're getting to know a little bit about BATT, which is the acronym for the Bankers Association of Trinidad Tobago, and we're doing so with Richard Downie. He is the president of BATT and unfortunately is having some internet issues. So we're going to just have a quick powwow in terms of the discussion we've been having, which is we're looking at the 25th anniversary, what has been happening, as well as the members. We have members like Answer Bank, the First Caribbean International Bank, which is also known as CIBC, Citibank, First Citizens, GMMB Bank, Royal Bank, RBC Royal Bank, Republic Bank, and Scotia Bank. So with these members, we're able to have these discussions around financial literacy and education. And we've had multiple guests over the last 12 months discussing and sharing their insight into money, which is something that affects us all. So I believe we have Richard back in. So we were
Yes, I'm
just sort
back.
of we were reiterating what was happening, and what we want to look at is maybe a key achievement or two when it comes to BAT over the last 25 years. Is there anything
Yes.
in particular that stands out?
Maybe about three or four things I can call out. As you know, as it's launched in 1997, by the early 2000s, 2001, I believe, in that sort of timeline. And I just want to call out Peter Julie, who you saw giving those kudos, the past CEO of RBC, RBTT. Thank you very much for those comments. He was the actual founding president of the Bankers Association. Glad he could be on to the program. But in 2001, we would have had the formation of the Code of Banking Practice. A key thing that, in forming an association, you do want to set standards. We want to describe what we consider good practice, good service, what we will be able to do, and more importantly, not be able to do. Of course, sometimes persons think that the banks can come together and talk about rates and price and charges. Those things are not part of the association. It is really an advocacy association, lobbying, key aspects of it, education building as well. So code of banking practice was a critical one, 2001 thereabouts. Just following that, or almost during that period, we had, some of you may know the Links network that we all lovely use that network for our debit card to access money at the ATM or to pay for our goods at the point of sale devices. That links network, we sometimes call it a links card, but really it's referred to more formally as a debit card, is what you use, and there's a infrastructure behind it, there's a company behind it that ensures that the proper operating of that infrastructure, ensuring that we are compliant, that we're using the best and latest technology, and that company is called Infolink Services Limited. So the formation of that was really by the four major banks at the time, larger banks, Republic, Scotia, First Citizens, and RBC, continue to oversee that aspect of it. Within there are two other key initiatives that has happened. It was the formation of our credit bureau. And the credit bureau, CRSL, Caribbean Reporting, I'm testing myself here now, Caribbean Reporting Services Limited, was formed with the partnership of TransUnion. Just several years later, and in the mid 2000s, I believe, somewhere thereabouts. And what we saw that was allowing for us to really be able to share credit information across banks. So this allowed us to be more confident, both for the consumer in terms of being able to more quickly assess and offer them loans, be it a loan for a property or a loan for a vehicle, or just a loan for other buying of furniture or other aspects, so to speak. So that we saw the lobbying of that. More recently, in the last several years, we have seen the formation of what we call the ACH, Automated Clearinghouse is the official name. That's really where we are now allowed to transfer funds between banks outside of our ATM. So I can pay my insurance through ACH, either at my bank, or that funds can be transferred to another local bank. A lot of that background and infrastructure is now used through a lot of the digital means that the banks are offering. So, as an example, at RBC, you can transfer funds to local banks, and there's a limit by which you can do so. So, these funds are easily able to move around without you having to write a check or to go into the branch to do so, really making it more convenient for the consumer to get their day-to-day banking done, leaving the more complex transactions for that visit towards the branch when you need to do so. And last but not least, one of the more upcoming initiatives will be that of the electronic check clearing. What it's really looking at is taking the checks that we write and digitizing it so that we can transfer those checks in the background between member banks. This will be another foundational step that would allow for further digital aspects as we move forward. So these are some of the key things that BATT has oversight for and had oversight and responsibility for implementing over the last few years.
And I have to add, as a consumer and a business owner, that ACH saves lives because the time spent that you may have spent, sign up physically in the bank has now shifted into going online and making that, 2 clicks away. And as a small business owner with not much time, that has been very instrumental for my business. So that initiative is definitely one that I could be like, yay.
Yeah, very, very much so.
And during this time frame, you mentioned quite a few things, and thanks to people like Peter, who you mentioned
Julie.
earlier. Yes, for starting this initiative, and shout out to Melanie as well. She's joined us from LinkedIn and given us a shout out in the comments. Thank you for joining this discussion. Now, when it comes to the show, do you have any insight on how this came about, the Straight Off the Bat show?
Certainly. I think looking at what had happened, we were in pre-pandemic or just before the pandemic, we was looking to see what else we can do in terms of trying to reach our consumers. Everything was going more virtual, and we felt, it was all part of that revived Survive, Adapt campaign. And through that process and through your support as well, Pauline, and your team was partnering with the Secretariat at the Bankers Association, coming up with this program called Straight Off the Bat. I think it's twice a month we try to keep to the schedule and covering various topics that are relevant for the country. And we continue to adapt, so we certainly do open to colleagues who are on the call or who are watching us live to recommend topics for us to consider that you want to hear more on. And we try to source the right person, the right subject matter expert within the banking fraternity to allow you the opportunity to interview that person and get to what we call the ability to explain more easily what these various aspects could be about. It could be, what do you do for better financial planning, family planning. It could be different topics, elder care, around protecting their funds, different topics that you think are relevant that we should speak to. So it really morphed into a digital aspect. We felt we were able to reach a lot more of the public through this forum. This complements certainly the what I call the paper aspect of the publication, so that we have both the digital version, and we have that certainly in terms of the paper-based quarterly publication that we do as well, that go out and is available for persons. I must say we did good work. I must commend you and the team for the work around the mental health area aspect of things. It was critical time where those were key topics that we needed as an association to also profile and support.
Well, it's so odd for me to say that I get to do this as a job, because I really have learned a lot from these sessions, and I really appreciate the Bankers Association of Trinidad Tobago as a partner. And it's been interesting to learn as well how people respond to some of these shows. Like, one of the more popular shows was Nicole Anna, and the discussion around elder financial abuse and what a power of attorney is as well. So those, although there are two different discussions, it was heavily viewed, one of the most popular videos, as well as commented on. So to see it as well in real time has been a privilege. And yes, definitely for those who are watching this now or on the replay, let us know what else you want us to discuss, because we're really doing this for you, for me too, because I learn a lot, but mostly for you. Um, so when it comes to, the importance of this show, and you did mention mental health, which I think it's still becoming, people are still feeling a type of way having a discussion about mental health. It still is a bit of a taboo. So to have those discussions, I think, is extremely important, at least to start it for people. But why is it important for people to view this show and to just continuously connect with this platform and being able to view this information? Why do you think that is, Richard?
Yeah, my thoughts on it. Certainly, let's start first with from a viewer perspective, what it's allowing. From a viewer perspective, it's the ability to offer up-to-date information that's credible information. As we know, in the aspect of social media now, there's a difference between what's credible and not credible. So listening to our Straight Off the Bat program, you're getting credible information about the banking industry, about the financial industry, and its related topics that we think is relevant to support the community and the country as a whole. So that's one key benefit. Of course, it will cover a wide range of topics. We will certainly continue to open up to find topics that we think are relevant, that we can lend our voice to. And sometimes it's a topic that it's crucial for the country. And maybe it's not all about financial, right? As you know, one aspect of it is the whole aspect of domestic violence. Now, it might have a relation in terms of what it might mean and what we can do to support it. So it might be more discussion on as key associations, and so how do we support those sort of issues that face the country. So it's wide ranging in terms of topics, and it's always sharing what we think is relevant that we can share. The newsletter, as mentioned, the paper version will also continue to document and have in print the issues and the various topics we want to share that are all relevant. Now, from a BATT perspective, the other side, from a Bankers Association perspective, we get to reach a wide range of subject matter, SME, small to medium enterprise, students, the general public as a whole, and these are key stakeholders to us within the banking fraternity.
So we almost got through that piece of information before the internet decided to cut off Richard. So we'll go on a quick break, and when we get back, we hope to close this session off, and we hope to have Richard back on. So we'll be right back. Good day and welcome back to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from YouTube, don't forget to like, follow our page to continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and we're commemorating quite an achievement when it comes to 25 years of the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Today, we're discussing Getting to Know BATT, which is the acronym for the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm hoping that we have Richard joining us again soon. We are having a bit of a technical difficulty when it comes to the internet. But what I can say is over the last, I think it's been almost 3 years, we've had a lot of shows that cover so much information. And I want to give you some insight into some of the most popular conversations we've had. Earlier this year, one of our first guests was someone who gave us some insight into investment, which was Philip Williams. And his discussion not only was popular at the time when we did the live show, but we got a lot of feedback in terms of people wanting to learn more about investment, because financial literacy isn't just about putting your money somewhere and just leaving it, but understanding the markets, because for me, it's all new. I never had this discussion as a child. So that was very interesting to understand how to invest your money in Trinidad and Tobago. We also had a discussion with maximizing your income during, lockdown with Tanya Swart at GMB. And that discussion saw a lot of insight as well when it comes to the first experiencing what that first experience with money was like, especially when it comes to, as a child, maybe being able to say, okay, I got $10, I was able to save $2, but I spent the $8. So those types of conversations are important, not just for you and I as an adult, but if you're a parent watching, what does that mean for your kid as well? So all of these discussions are available on YouTube. You can go and subscribe. I think that's one of the easier ways to find those videos, as well as being able to say, hey, I can reference this discussion, not just for your kids, because your kids are on YouTube as well as TikTok. Don't worry, I see the data. So there's discussions for you to have with them and to share the information. We also have small snippets. So if you don't want to sit down and watch the hour of the discussion, you can actually go into the main YouTube channel and you can see some information. You could just search for what you're looking for. All of that is available on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe. You can look in the comment section for that. So I believe Richard has joined us back, and what we're going to do right now is we're going to close off the session, because I think that is important for us to understand the role of the Bankers Association for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because ultimately we can all have discussions in a closed room, but as consumers, we want to know what is it in it for us. That's what we want to know. So just to close off this discussion, Richard, let us know how does the Bankers Association play a role in the financial literacy of Trinidad and Tobago and its citizens?
Yeah, thanks for that, Pauline. So I have there's a problem with the site.
Oh, sorry.
But
Sorry, you just
so
went mute for a bit. Do you want to say that one more time? We messed up the first couple of seconds. So can you just do
yeah,
that again?
yeah, just that I switched over to using the phone, and hopefully the phone behaves, not the iPad. All right. So, in terms of the role of financial literacy and that of citizens, we want to continue to promote financial education. I think it's a key benefit for everyone. And so we continue to lobby. We will continue to work with what we can call a local institution, a local group called the National Financial Education Committee. And this is headed by Central Bank. We call it CBTT for short. And together with sister financial institutions, we will band together and continue to look and identify areas to help educate in various topics. The financial ombudsman is there as well to allow for that under the central bank to protect consumer rights. It's always something we want to make sure persons do know exists. Most persons aren't aware of that as well. So that at any point you do know if something is not considered right, you can reach out to them. Um, Workshops will always continue to be held. Programs like this one, Straight Off the Bat, will be a key tool within our range of opportunities where we will continue to try to find ways to share information, reach our public, and really talk on topics that are relevant and really help foster that better relationship with the general public overall.
Great. And on that note, we want to thank you so much, Richard, for giving us some insight. Is there any way folks, if they want to get in touch with the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, do you have any advice for our viewers out there?
Certainly, the best way to get in touch with our secretariat is the best way, and the secretariat has two email addresses under which I will just call out that you can be reached at. One is the secretariat, the word secretariat, at batt.org.tt, and the other email address will be communications, one word, at batt.org.tt. So those two email addresses, you will find us on most locations, Facebook, LinkedIn, and via email. But the email is the quickest way to get in touch with us, and we will certainly look into it and respond to you.
Well, thank you so much, Richard, again for your time. Thanks for joining us today and sharing insight into the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, affectionately known as BATT, hence the Straight Off the Bat show. Sign up to be notified for our next live show via the links in the comments. As always, be sure to like and follow our page on LinkedIn so you don't miss a single live show. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I will see you soon in 2023. Goodbye.